Automation in translation management systems. What can you automate? And before I answer that question, let's start by asking what real automation looks like. So if you ask me, automation means when you can run a process from A to Z, from the beginning to the end of that process, whatever that process is defined as, without human intervention. To me, that is the definition of automation. It's making it automatic or therefore unmanual, right? So you start by defining what the scope of that process is. So let's say, for instance, the scope of that process is sending out an email. If you can draft an email and you can send out that email to thousands of people without anybody touching anything, that's clearly an automated process because the scope of the task was sending out the email, and you've created the email, but then you can automate the sending of that email to thousands of people with the click of a button. Clear automation, right? But in translation management systems, I feel that the definition of what automation is and is not for certain processes is very loose. So for instance, I've seen many translation management systems that are more maybe on the business side, and they say, yes, we can automate task placement to translators, for instance. Okay, what does that look like? Well, this looks like this. When you create the project based on certain workflows and parameters that you create, we create the tasks for you, and we can alert certain translators that those tasks are available for them. They can then log into our platform and they can say that they want to take those tasks, but those tasks aren't really available for them there. They're going to have to maybe look for those tasks in another place. And then they're going to have to come back to that platform and then mark the task as delivered. And maybe a project manager is going to have to export something in the process as well. So when you look at real automation, for me, that means, as far as a task assignment, means that a task can be created and that translator can start working on that task, and then can finish that task and have it delivered back without any kind of manual intervention. So there's a question of scope, right? What is the automation that you're looking for? And then there's a question of also scalability of that automation and as well governance. So for instance, okay, maybe you can automate the task being placed to the translator, but can you control it? Can you control whether or not you're placing it more based on quality or more based on cost or more based on availability? Can you control whether or not you're creating different kinds of automations for different kinds of scenarios? And can you create mechanisms that allow you to truly create governance over that automation? So when you look at this, the automation is a very appealing concept. And because of that, a lot of people tend to overlook what it really means in very particular scenarios. So, and it's become a marketing buzzword, right? So we automate, they automate, we all automate, we love automation. But then all that additional care in seeing how that automation plays out for given scenarios, that's very important because that's ultimately the kind of business value that it will be able to deliver. So another example, for instance, quoting automation, right? Can you go from files in to a quote without human intervention? Again, some systems will claim that they can automate quoting because they can, let's say, import data from another platform that has maybe a log file or detailed stats on the files that are being worked, and then based on that, create something based on a template, and then have someone verify that. Maybe that is automation. To me, automation is based on complex rules and settings for a specific kind of clients, have files in, quote out immediately. So again, the idea of what the scope of that automation is, how much you can scale it, how much you can control it, all of that matters, and how all of these automations, they play out together, right? I think the nature of any software system is some level of automation. You're working with a machine, so a certain level of automation is by nature taking place. But I think when you look at things in a more subtle perspective, you'll notice that certain kinds of automations and built in specific kind of ways will deliver immeasurable business value, whereas other automations are great to have, but won't necessarily change the way the business operates. And I think that's another level, right? Any given platform is only as good as the users who are structuring its use make it to be. So if you have a given platform that has a given automation capability, but for some reason using that automation may reduce or change the role of other users who are used to doing things a certain way. So maybe, for instance, it's a task automation, but users want to have the discernment of deciding whether or not they're going to send a given task to a specific linguist for reason A, B, or C. Now you have the capability of automation, but you're no longer using its potential because you want to deliver back that decision-making capability to the user, which is fine in given context, but it's very important to understand that each of these decisions, they carry ramifications as far as to the business value that the software can ultimately deliver. So it's important to consider the idea that real automation involves people most likely changing their roles, changing their understanding, even sometimes of their identity of what it is that they do in the given organization that they're working in. So automation is a great concept, but it's extremely important for people to make their own assessments of what it is that they're trying to change or automate in any given process, what the software itself can deliver, and how much they're willing to change or adjust their processes also based on what the software can deliver. So it's kind of this systemic and dynamic approach between business goals, platform, and human change management. So those are my thoughts on automation, but would love to hear from you what you think automation looks like in a translation management system. And if you liked this video, please remember to like, leave your comments, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.